Hey everyone, welcome to another podcast of Marketing 101 for chiropractors. Really special guest this week, Dan McCoy. He's from techsubluxation.com and he's going to go through a lot of cool stuff that's way over your head, but sometimes you just need that podcast. It's just way over your head so that it scares the crap out of you and you change something in your office immediately. I help many of you market, and it's a shame when the poop hits the fan and it stops all of our progress, and it's super frustrating for you and for me. I care about your practice just as much as I care about my practice because I help you with your business. So Dan, thanks for being on this. Tell us a little bit about how you got into all this, how your business runs now, and how you help specifically chiropractors prevent these issues.
Yeah. So first of all, no, the short version of that, because it could be a whole podcast in and of itself, is that my family was saved through chiropractic. Two family members were on long-term medications, and between chiropractic and some health changes, some diet changes, things like that, they were able to get off of all of that. So I'm extremely grateful to the relationships that introduced me to what chiropractic truly was, not just neck and back pain, which I always thought, you got neck, back pain, you go to chiropractor. But what I found is that it's really about function and your body functioning at its highest level, because there isn't any interference, so the body naturally heals from the inside out. And so what's really cool is that really, as we started to experience that, I've been able to bring probably hundreds of people into chiropractic for their first adjustment, including all of my employees, and two of which have came to me with very chronic issues and now live a pain-free life, thanks to chiropractic. So I kind of am passionate about helping you do what you do better, and so it just so happens that my background is in technology and cybersecurity and computers, we'll put it that way. And I promise you, I will keep this high level, no geek speak, as much as possible on this talk. So
I doubt
anyway,
it.
hopefully that gives you the you doubt
Yeah.
it. Yeah. So no, hopefully that gives you just a little bit of a background as to
Yeah,
why.
no,
But
that's great.
the
That's
key
great.
thing
Yeah,
is
you
relationships.
relationships, yeah, and you're tied into the and you know what we do. And Dan truly is. I've known him for like 7 years now. I've actually known the guy, run into him at multiple different conferences. But and the thing about him is that's all he talks about. This is all he cares about. He also flies planes. He does a bunch of cool stuff in his personal life, but whenever you get in touch with him, this is it. Like, he's just always on about this stuff because he sees the crap that you hear about in hearsay, down the telephone line. But let's get into it. What would you say the number one risk to Cairo offices here in 2023 is right now?
Well, the real short answer to that is not caring.
Hmm.
So, you know, eh, sometimes chiropractors just get their heads down and they just want to adjust and adjust and adjust, and they don't think about all of the things that can affect their business. What's interesting is chiropractors want to help people, yet sometimes they don't pay attention to the things that can prevent them from helping people. It's like insurance, Enrico. Like, why do you have insurance on your house? Like, if you don't have insurance on your house, then you got to have, 500,000 bucks, $1 million, whatever, sitting around waiting to rebuild the house in the event that you have a fire. So you get insurance to transfer that risk. And so, what the risk that a lot of chiropractors don't see is that there's cybersecurity attacks sitting there waiting in the wings that can impact them from doing the thing, seeing patients, helping people get well, that they care most about. So they go, why? Like, what am I missing? Like, oh, it's never happened to me. I've been in practice 37 years. It's never happened to me. Well, I don't know
Mhm.
about you. Have you ever had a house fire? I haven't.
I have not personally, no.
I owned my house for 25, 26 years. I've never had a house fire. So, I mean, the logic might make sense, but when you break it down and go, you have insurance to transfer risk, but few people do things when it comes to cybersecurity. Well, they go, I have antivirus on my computer. Well, let's talk about that. Okay. I got some numbers right here, and they're really fresh too. So attacks on SMBs, so small to medium businesses, attacks on SMBs are surging up 424% annual. This was a Gartner poll last year, up 424% annually. 70% of small businesses know they have been cyber attacked. That leaves the other 30% that don't. 60% of attacked small businesses go out of business within 6 months. That should scare you a little bit. Attacks per employee mailbox, email, are up 300% higher than last year at small, medium businesses. And 52% of data security breaches result from human failure. So we're going to dive into that just a little bit. And I'll give you a quick story. We had a client who received an email from the CEO of another company about a project that they were working on. And they got that email, and everything looked normal. Like when you looked at it, it was really from the CEO. Now, little spoiler alert, it really was from that CEO's email account. But what had happened is the hacker had gotten into that CEO's email account and sent an email. Now, before he sent the email, these guys are very sophisticated. Before he sent that email, he had actually looked at all of the conversations back and forth so he could insert himself into the transaction that sounded like an interaction that they were actually going to have with this client or had been having with this client, and asked for the money to be wired to a certain account. So that money was wired to the account, but it wasn't the account of them.
Wow.
And they were waiting for money. Now, so these guys are getting smarter. And you go, well, how can that happen? Like, how did they get into there? Well, one of the reasons could be because they use the same password on their email account that they use on their social media or other places.
Yes. Yes. Okay, guys. I'm a chiropractor. I'm not the brightest one in the room right now when it comes to this, but your banking passwords are the most unique passwords you use. You do not use that on anything else. And then your in-office passwords, emails, are the second most unique passwords you use with nothing else. Everything else, later.com, Facebook, all that stuff, you can use a generic one. You shouldn't, but you can use a generic one. But when it comes to your banking and your email, oh my gosh, like completely have unique passwords for this and change them every 6 months. Like you just have to. That's my rule.
I'm gonna blow your mind. So not just your business accounts, but your personal accounts too.
Yeah,
Because you think
for
about
sure.
where are
For
the
sure.
reset paths for every single account that you have in your email. So your email account must be unique. Now, we highly recommend, I wasn't going to get into this, but I'm going to. We highly recommend that you use a password manager and use
Mm.
random passwords rather than, ones that people could potentially guess. But a password manager is a bunch of them out there. I'm not going to get into all of them. But the email password needs to be unique. And here's the second most important thing, and that is that you have two-factor or multi-factor authentication enabled on every single account that you possibly can.
Yes.
Now, let me be clear. I'm not talking about, this may be something you haven't heard before, Enrico. I'm not talking about the one that sends a text to your phone. I'm talking about ones that use Authy, Duo, Google Authenticator, ones where you have to put the 6-digit code in to be able to get that. Because I'm going to tell you right now, it's not hard for me to compromise your iCloud account. Oh, because it's the same password as the account that I just compromised, and then get access to your messages, your iMessages that have been going
Mm,
back and forth.
Scary stuff, man. Yeah. Yeah. I use Authenticator on my phone, the Microsoft one. At least, I mean, that's just one. You have to. I've been using the code generator on Facebook forever. Like we said in the green room here, like talking about this. When it comes to marketing, to be shut down because someone hacked your ads account and put up that damn 99 cent, thing that happens and you don't even know it's happening. And by the time you catch it, Facebook's like, well, that was illegal. And now you're banned from marketing. Now we're shut off an entire channel that you were so dependent on. And so many people now, especially in the health field, are leaning towards Facebook, Instagram ads solely. Like that's their only form of marketing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you should probably protect this if you're deciding to ditch Google and just stick with Facebook. Please protect it. Change that password all the time for sure.
Yeah, change the password and since you brought it up, I'm going to open that door and go in it. Multi-factor authentication everywhere, including your Facebook account. Like, stop, pause, flag on the play. We don't need a 10-yard penalty. Flag on the play right now. After you're done watching this,
Yes.
go turn on every security feature that Facebook has. I don't care if you mark it on or not. You've got your precious family photos for the last who knows how many years. Did you know, by the way, that you can download your entire Facebook account? You can
You
back
can
it up and pull down every picture, every post, and download that so you have that history.
download it
So,
every year. Put it onto a hard drive and just save it. All your photos are there. I mean, most of you have more of your photos on your social media than you do anywhere else in your house. You don't even back it up to the cloud. So
yeah.
for sure, great tip.
Multi-factor authentication, though, turn that stuff on even on your Facebook account.
For sure.
Yep.
What do you think the number one risk to chiropractors in general is when it comes to any type of form of cybersecurity right now? And as we move into 2024, what can we do? Like, what are the top 3 things right now? Of course, hire techsublexation.com. But what can we do naturally in there? Because there's things I've learned over time, even with some conversations with you, just with my phone system and moving from a small office with 4 computers that the front desk was running as the server, wasn't really a server. That was dangerous because if that got compromised, the whole office went down. And now we're into a bigger office with like 14 computers. 5 of them that are just well mounted. But now we have a server room, security, Microsoft security. I mean, it turned into a big thing, but it has to be a big thing. So these might be different levels for people listening right now. They're like, okay, I'm like Enrico in his first office. I got like a computer, but what happens if I need to move into like a 5 computer system or a 7 computer system or a 10 computer system? What are we looking at now? Or what are the things that we can do to just make sure we set this up properly? So when we bring in someone like you, you're not like, oh my gosh, we have to reconstruct this whole thing.
Yeah, it's a good question. So obviously, the bigger the footprint you have, more computers, in particular, more people, the more what we call threat landscape, the more threat surface that you have. You know, if you're trying to shoot at a target 10 feet away and that target's 10 feet wide, it's a no-brainer to hit the broadside of a bus. But if you're trying to shoot at a target that is 100 feet away and it's 6 inches, it's a lot more difficult. So obviously, the more people you have, the more risk you have. And I'm going to tell you, your people, to answer your question, your first question is what's the number one risk? It's your people. So your people are your best defense at cybersecurity, but they're also your own worst enemy
Hmm.
if not properly trained. So let me ask you, right? If you're a chiropractor and you go to school and you graduate, you know it all. You never have to get trained anymore. You never have to do any more anything, right? Because you're the best right out of the gate.
Right.
Like
No,
it's not realistic.
not true.
Like
Yeah.
you train, you hone your craft. You learn from people who have been doing it longer. You learn different ways to do it. You learn how to solve problems differently. Quick story. My son. I'm going to be a grandpa here in about a month for the first time, and my son and daughter-in-law are having a baby, and they're doing it right, and they're doing a home birth, and they've got a chiropractor, great chiropractor actually, who is well known in the industry, who is just recently turned their baby around, thanks to Webster, because now they don't have to worry about a C-section, right? It's just it's awesome to see people take advantage of this kind of stuff, but your people are your own worst enemy. They're also your best defense. So what do you do about that? It's important that they are educated in cybersecurity regularly. And by regularly, I say once a week. It hasn't to be long, but I'm going to tell you something. What's top of mind? You ever bought a car and then you see
Yeah.
all the people that are on the road that have that car suddenly?
Yeah.
Especially
Everyone's driving it.
yeah,
Yeah.
everybody's driving the
Top of
same
mind,
car, the
right?
same
Top
color.
of mind. Yeah, for sure.
Top of mind awareness.
And I'm going to tell you right
Um,
now, just with the chiropractors I've coached over the years, they are doing cybersecurity review and security review. Never. Probably that's the number one answer. Maybe annually when some type of thing scares them about HIPAA or Medicare. and they quickly just review that. Did you guys know anyone that uses a computer in your office, anyone at any time, anything, has to sign a HIPAA agreement with your office? Your cleaner that comes to clean your office has to sign this. Your IT person that comes in or virtually works in your office has to sign a HIPAA agreement with you, a contracted agreement from your practice, not the one that they give you that protects them. Then you need, so you guys can download this stuff on HIPAA. But yeah, these are things that chiropractors don't even know to protect themselves. This simple paperwork that I was trying to get from you, maybe a couple tips. That's my tip, is like, you need to have everyone that works in your office sign this HIPAA protection thing, but not just sign it. It's not really protecting you if you never reviewed it with them, with every employee saying, okay, listen, do you know what you signed? Every time you log into an email, we have to use a unique password for you specifically, and it has to be only your email address. Don't log into the main info at, or whatever the rules are, the precautions are. And which computers are we going to use for what? The ChiroTouch computers in the open bay are not allowed to open up the internet. We don't even have, we deleted all the icons. They're not even on there. You're not allowed to look at your email. You're not allowed to pick up a picture from Google. You're not allowed to show anatomy on the internet on those computers. If you need anything, we have one designated computer that's in the back that is not tied to the server on purpose.
Hey, on that point,
Yeah.
so, and this is a good one right here, since you brought up browsing the internet. You need to make sure that your employees are not using their personal Gmail accounts to log into the Google Chrome browser, because
No.
guess what happens when you log in to the Google Chrome browser? See, they just want to pull up their, they just want to log in because they want to go check their Gmail or whatever. Well, when you do that, which, they shouldn't be, do that on your own time. Do that on your own device, on your own time, on a guest Wi-Fi, whatever. Don't do that on
Yeah.
company computers. Here's why. And the largest breach that has ever happened of Cisco, which is a large networking organization, they provide IT equipment. Their largest breach happened because an employee was logged in via Google. Here's how that happens. They log into your computer with their Gmail account, and up in Google, it puts their pretty little picture in the upper right-hand corner. And there's a function in there called sync. Do you want to sync? Yeah, I want to sync. Now, Google, if you're not using a password manager, which you should be, Google then goes and says, hey, do you want to save that password that you just put in? And you say yes, and it saves it in your Google account. And now it syncs it to the personal Google account. Now your healthcare sites that have patient information in them are synced to their Google account. And now they go home, and guess where that stuff's accessible? Now the hacker gets into their computer, because it doesn't have all of the cybersecurity that you've invested in, hopefully, but you've invested in. And now they have access to your healthcare sites, and Doc is putting you at risk. That's why you must mandate that devices, smart thermostats, Nest, smart refrigerators, smart coffee pots, Sonos speakers, Google Home devices, none of those should be on the same internal Wi-Fi that everything that you have your computers on Wi-Fi in the office are. So there should be an internal Wi-Fi that is only accessible by people and devices that need to be on it. Have a genuine need, not get to the internet, genuine need. So protected computers, etc. Then you have a guest Wi-Fi that your guests and employees can log on to that is firewalled off from the rest of that network. And then the third one, and a lot of people miss this, is what we call IoT, or Internet of Things, that I just mentioned. Coffee pots, Nest thermostats, anything that's internet connected that's a device that needs to be on a separate dedicated network that may have access to the internet, that doesn't have access to the guests, it doesn't have access to your internal network. Why? Single largest breach of Windows computers 3.5 years ago came from refrigerators that were compromised. And they got in through the refrigerator and got into the people's home network.
Unbelievable. I mean, you may not have a refrigerator in your office that's, synced like that, but you probably have speakers. You probably have Sonos speakers or something like that around the office.
Yeah.
So be careful. Okay. So Dan doesn't even know this yet. Dan and I are going to do a webinar for chiropractors on the top 10 things that they need to immediately fix sometime in the future. I won't put a deadline on that because we're both busy, but we're going to do it for you, and we're going to launch it to the chiropractic profession.
Glad to help. And you may ask why, guys. Why is the antivirus that you use not good enough? And if you're using McAfee, Norton, all those major brands out there, AVG, Avast, those are no longer able to be used in your practice. You go, why, Dan?
Hmm. Hmm.
Because I
I
use
use the
them.
vast.
So,
Wow.
so here's why. Here's why. Because and this is fresh data. And if you want to check this out, you're welcome to go look at av-test.org. If you go to that website and click on statistics at the top, it tells you this website tracks the new viruses that are found in the wild. And I looked at this just yesterday. And in the last 14 days, there's been 4.2 million new viruses that have been found. Last 14 days, 4.2 million viruses. Now, new, never seen before. Now, let me break that down for you. That's 301,000 new viruses per day if you do the math. Now, what does that mean for you? Well, there's a website out there that tracks when each of the 79 antivirus providers out there, Norton, McAfee, all those different, and there's 79 of those. It tracks when they first find every single virus that's out there. Now, if you look when they find it, it's from when it was first discovered in the wild till insert name of vendor fixed that problem. So here's what has to happen. They've got to find the problem, they've got to fix the problem, then they got to download it to your database on your computer, and then you're protected supposedly. The average time for that is 45 to 60 days. Now, if it takes 45 to 60 days and there's 300,000 new viruses coming out every day, anybody can do some simple math and go, I might be exposed.
Mhm.
So how do you deal with that? The simple answer is you've got to have different technology in there. You can't use database-driven 30-year-old technology antivirus solutions out there. There has to be what we call next-gen antivirus, or EDR, endpoint detection and response, or MDR. They're all similar types that use products like SentinelOne, like CrowdStrike, like what's the name of it? Oh my goodness. Mind blank. Anyway, sorry. These are not ones, by the way, that you can purchase directly. So you have to have a relationship with typically a provider like myself that is actually monitoring these things. I know that sounds like a hard sell for me. It is, because we use these tools because they work. What they do differently is they look at behaviors. So we've characterized 650 known behaviors that if this happens and this happens, that's bad. And we're going to stop it and shut it down. Not this virus has happened and we know how to fix it. It's if this behavior happens, we consider that suspicious and we're going to shut it down. And then our team can go in and remove it from your computer, or go, oh no, that was a false positive, and release it. But
Yeah. Yeah. I've been,
that's
luckily, I've had the ransom. That's my one tech thing that's happened in my Canadian office. We had moved to a server. I was freshly on there, which was great. Front desk, of course, front desk computer. We come in on a Monday and all of our Word documents are locked. And my front desk staff were there and we're like, okay, how did you back this up? She's like, yeah, I backed it up on Friday. I'm like, so can we lose today's work? And she's like, yeah. I ripped it out of the wall and I got rid of that CPU. I just took it out and bought a new one. That's kind of an expensive fix. Maybe not. I don't know. But I wasn't risking it. And some people told me all the things I could have done. But I was like, was that okay? They're like, yeah, as long as it didn't affect the server or any other computers. And luckily it didn't. The IT guy,
you
it
were
took
you
me
were
like
lucky. You were
took
lucky.
30 days to figure it all out. He had to go in and make sure and backtrace all the movement that happened there. And that ransomware was working well before that Monday. That wasn't just on the weekend when we turned things off. That was in there. And then it finally locked it out and said, hey, here's the email to pay us. It was like they wanted like $800. I was like,
It's a lot more than that now. And
oh
you know
my
what?
gosh.
You
Yeah.
know what's interesting? The average hacker is in your computer 6 weeks before they execute the ransomware.
Makes
So
sense.
here's one of the things that you have to know too. If you get ransomware, unless you can absolutely, and you're not going to do this unless you have somebody watching over things, but unless you can absolutely prove that it was limited to there and they did not exfiltrate any data, it is a mandatory HIPAA breach report if you
Good to know.
get ransomware.
Guys, you
And
have you have so much responsibility as a chiropractor. I know, and I think we ignore it because we hate it. We truly do. We hate the cloud that's over our heads when it comes to Medicare, HIPAA, and all these compliances, and even your business permit in your counties. You have these rules you have to apply. that doesn't have to be difficult. It becomes scary because you've ignored it for so long. That's if you're feeling fear right now, it's because you've ignored it for years. If you're like, hey, I'm interested in this podcast right now, this is super cool, it's probably because you've done some things right. And that's good. So if you're crapping your pants right now, we got to work. You got to call Dan. If you're not, then maybe you've learned a couple of things to stay on it, but you are responsible for this stuff. If a breach happens, you have to report it. If a credit card was charged wrong, you have to report it to the patient and to your credit card processing company. I mean,
Did you know?
these are
Did you
important
know that
things.
there are 31 privacy laws in the state of Florida that are on the books besides HIPAA, which is a federal law? The
Yeah.
state of Florida alone has 31 privacy laws. So if you think, well, I'm all cash and I don't do any electronic billing, so I don't fall under HIPAA, there are 31 privacy laws in the state of Florida alone. And I know that because my attorney's in Florida and she told me that.
Right.
But it's like you must pay attention to this. Here's
You
one
must.
tip that's super important, and then we're going to let people go, right? The first one that they must know is that, first of all, just because you had a backup today, if you got that backup anywhere on site, they can ransomware your backups too and attach your backups. It happens all the time and wipe them out.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It has to be a cloud backup.
it's got to be cloud back. It's got to be encrypted. But
Encrypted somewhere else. Yeah.
yep, encrypted. And then the
And
last piece of that,
go ahead. No, you finish. Mine's different.
the last piece of that is few people consider this. Okay, everybody knows they're supposed to back up their stuff, but the problem with backup is the tactic. It's not a strategy. The strategy is if I go down, how quickly can I get back up? So
Right.
that requires a different level of planning. And depending upon your practice, if you're seeing 60 patient visits a week, you might be able to grab a piece of paper and take notes and that's all good. But if you're seeing 400 patient visits a week or 300 patient visits a week or 600 patient visits a week, you're not going to do well without your computer systems functioning to tell you what's going on and so forth. So there has to be technology put in place that can get you back up quick, even if the hardware fails.
Yes. And those are all the
Server,
strategies. Yeah.
server. Okay, your server fails. Is your server under warranty? It better be. What
Right.
warranty? Next business day? Heck no, if you're seeing 600 patient visits a week. 4-hour response time. Pay Dell for that.
Right.
Get this stuff up quick, right? This is your business. You have to create strategies around making sure your technology comes back up in a timely manner because that's what makes you money. Lest you think this is not a problem. We have a client that saw 410 patient visits a week at the time that his breach happened. From March to, it wasn't a client at the time, it's how he became a client. From March to May, he was going through a breach. And a year later, we were doing a business review. And he saw a $250,000 dip during those 2 months. And we're looking at it and he's like, what's going on? What happened here? Like over the previous year, why did we lose money? And then it hit him. And I have him on audio recording talking about this. He, at his permission, of course, and he said, holy crap, I didn't even think about it. Like we talk about thought subluxations and how the body can become subluxated from thinking bad thoughts or talking negative or not thinking positively. Well, he saw less people during those 2 months because of what was happening up here in him and his staff.
Right. Oh my gosh. Have you ever had an event in your practice where it just throws the energy off? This could be a major life shifter for you if it shuts you down. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Dan. I mean, I was going to put up a last comment about PCI compliance. This is based on your credit card processing. They just changed 8 major things in the last 30 days that they haven't touched in 8 years. So these things all affect you in ways. And if you have the right people, if you have tech subluxation in your back pocket, Dan's on it. If you have Fortis credit card processing, I know they got the PCI compliance all under control. If you got the right team around you, then you can sleep well at night. And that's just like your insurance blanket as well. Thanks, Dan. That was awesome, man. We could have gone all day. I know we could have, but we'll have that there. I am serious about that webinar. I think that would be important, and I think we'll get a great response on that. A lot of people are curious. If you have questions, reach out to Dan McCoy. I'll put all of his contact info in the bio of the podcast. And thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, man. And hey, by the way, If you want to keep yourself protected, I've got a free cybersecurity tip that we send out every week,
Hmm.
and I'll give you that to go post. If you sign up for that, comes out Monday morning 8 a.m. and it will help just train that top of mind awareness like we talked about earlier.
Awesome. I get that one myself. So I'll put that link in here as well. And then just follow Dan on social media too and get all of his tips. Appreciate you.
Yep. Thanks. Same. Likewise, buddy.
Yeah. Take
Good
care.
talking.